Up next, we have another wonderful woman representative from the Hungarian business community. She's going to be talking to us about long-term thinking in business. Please welcome to the stage Venture at Octagon Partners and CEO of Bridge Budapest, Veronika Pistyur.
Thank you, everyone, for inviting me. And I can join Melinda in a lot of things. Of course, we are both building business communities. And my question is a theoretic question, and I will disappoint you because I won't answer exactly on that, but I really hope I can bring you through thinking how and why we launched a community which we call a conscious business community in the country. But first of all, I have to understand how many of you were born and raised in Hungary? Oh, yes, I don't have to describe too many things, just show some data and examples. But for the others, I try to explain as much as I can why we did what we did, why we started. So every country has their own challenges, of course. In the middle of Europe, sometimes we feel in the middle of nowhere, but of course we also face many challenges. And when we started 7 years ago, we also faced that the globe, the world changed a lot, and there is technology, there is global market, there are a lot of opportunities which could tell people that they can do whatever they want. That was probably right for and true for some part of the world, but not every part of the world, and Hungary included this part where people had no belief that they can influence their life. And those were the attitudes that we faced, and I'm sure if you were born and raised here, you met several times pessimism, defeatism, cynicism, and a lot of beautiful words, but not really beautiful attitudes, which don't really help us growing our values in our life and in our environment. And we also realized and faced that this means when we have this attitude, and this comes from lack of trust, as Melinda mentioned several times, lack of cooperation, lack of transparency. And the whole business environment, the whole business community a few years ago, and still the majority, were not about cooperations, were not about win-win situations, were not about understanding each other's and challenges and feel that if this is something good for my company, that could be good for your company as well. And we also faced that, okay, the change of the regime happened 31 years ago. Long ago. But the change and the transformation of the mindset has not really yet happened, or not enough in the society. And I will tell in a few examples why we think this. Of course, data can tell us a lot, and OECD rankings are sometimes not the most lovable ones. But when we are thinking about competitiveness of a society and of a country, then we sometimes face this data as well. For example, about Hungary. So we are on the 24th on the OECD ranking in competitiveness, which means those things I showed you. So lack of innovation and many other things. And we are far below the OECD average in many aspects of the economy. But when we think this big picture and those data, we always have to think about the generation, as I mentioned at the beginning, that we realized and felt that people doesn't really have the belief that they can influence their life. And of course, those were not just emotions and feelings and thoughts, but we could really see those experience in representative researches. And that was the most important one among others for us, which made a shock in the system, and a very strong number. I think if you can see that 9 out of 10 young Hungarians think nowadays as well, 31 years after the change of the regime, that only relations matter if they want to achieve anything. No results, no performance, nothing else, just relations. I don't know how many of you felt this in your life. I hope that here sit less and less people who feels this, but believe me, the majority feels this in their life, which means passivity. And if they still stay passive, that will mean that that competitiveness ranking won't really change in our society and in our country, and that would cause a lot of troubles in our future. So, and 7 years ago, we also faced other things. For example, that people still think that entrepreneurs are criminals in our society. That this data always shocks. But this is what happens when we ask about the first associations about entrepreneurs. People usually say that they have expensive cars, they look for small gates, and they are criminals. And those criminals are the ones who lead companies. And those companies are the environment where we work, where we live, where we spend our time, mostly more than 8 hours. I'm not talking about lifelong balance, life-work balance. And we also realized already 7 years ago that there are examples in the system who feels themselves white ravens. This is a Hungarian expression about those people who feel themselves alone in a community, who feel themselves somehow that they are opposite everyone. They go on a different direction. So this loneliness feeling was already there, and that was the thing that we first realized, that we have to collect those white ravens, and probably if they feel that, okay, you are white raven as well, like me, then probably it will change a bit about this loneliness. And why this whole thing started to give a boost in our thinking, that we realize that if we can collect these people somehow who think long-term and who think value-driven, then we can somehow influence this type of business environment and the majority of the business environment. And Bridge Budapest started to think about how to catalyze this whole process. These were the founders. I'm 100% sure that you might know some of them. I think many of the people here sitting is working for Prezi. How many of you? How many of you? Not so many, okay. So Prezi was among the first players, the first conscious business players who decided to act on this field and shape this field. And that time, 2013, that was, all tech guys. I think you already were talking about the gender balance in tech. That was the situation, so we tried to balance it with the team. I show you the team, but this is just the part of joking. But as a vision, we decided somehow to influence a society where self-confidence is based on performance and knowledge, and that became our vision, and that became part of our value set, and behind all, and this became the vision behind all our activities. And after very, very long excursions, we realized, of course, that we have to build this value-driven, long-term thinking business community. And we also have to focus on kids, how to develop their entrepreneurial mindset, not to become an entrepreneur, but to become someone who believes that they can influence their own life with those kind of entrepreneurial skills. But let's start with the community and what we could influence during just 7 years. So I already talked about passive rate, and we measured all our activities from the very beginning. And in 2013, the passive rate among young people, it was 91%, which meant that they had no ideas what to do, why to do. They had no understanding around their perspectives. They had no willing to do something and to become a prospector or a performer. And just during a few years, we realized that if we try to thematize this common speech around the whole question, and if we tell the stories of conscious business players, and if we show a mindful and a meaningful work environment, then people, and mainly young people, start to realize that they have options, they have perspectives. And so you can see that the perspective level grew a lot during the first 4 years. And of course, we focused on storytelling, knowledge sharing, and community building. And now the community is almost the same size as Melinda mentioned. We are open, and the conscious business player community is also around 1,000 people. And the fun facts, we celebrate paying tax together every year, which looks like we are crazy in a society where most of the people try to cheat and avoid paying tax the right way. So we try to make small hacks in the system and show people that this different mentality and different value set, different value set can make a change. We also launched the business school. This is just last year results. We are on 30 locations now in the country and developed already 1,000 kids, and 350 were from underrepresented groups. So we really want to show them what it means to find problems and find solutions and going through self-confidence building processes. And finally, we also launched a program how to link and catalyze this business community to other socially beneficial initiatives in this country, and of course for developing kids, because of course we realize we are not the only one who are interested in influencing the society. And of course, being conscious, I'm sure that you already put that question, what it means being conscious. It's usually, people are talking about this is a moral question, but it's not. We also have data, not just from World Bank, but this World Bank data line tells a lot how many employees are employed in a formal company, which is intention is to play conscious instead of playing informal, or the yearly goals, the income. And we already have Hungarian data, and we see, for example, among the data that the income is more than double among the conscious business players than the non-conscious business players. This is Adrienne in a community. I think among the data and the theories and everything, her thought tells a lot why we do this and why conscious business player can add more to a society than we just believe. She mentioned that the way we build our business is the same as what country we would like to live in. And we very strongly believe that the business community shaped the culture and the history of our country as well. And those are the white ravens, so I'm sure that this white raven expression is wrong anymore, because white ravens are mostly alone, and these companies are not anymore alone. They were the very first one who joined the community, and they are the last one from this Tuesday who joined as ambassadors to the program from all the sectors, from agriculture, from hospitality, all those sectors where we usually heard from the past years that this is completely impossible to play transparent, to play ethic, to play conscious. But we already have examples, and they can share their knowledge with the community. They can share their experience and their stories to convince others to join to the community and shape our country. And for example, Prezi was the very first one who declared just to work with conscious business players as suppliers. That was a very strong declaration to joining the community. And of course, the labor market helps us a lot, because this is already a Hungarian data. More than 60% of the young people think that if they want to work somewhere and create values, they want to join those meaningful, ethic, transparent companies. So that helps us a lot in creating this narrative towards the majority. And their model is always working with this community structure, and we try to develop the community, make it visible, and show them why this is a market advantage for everyone if they choose the good thing for themselves, the good thing for the business, and the exponential opportunity between the two. I have just 4 more minutes and a lot to tell. So those are also cool companies who joined the community. I just jumped through them. Unfortunately, I'm happy if you find your leader or you are among the audience here. And this is also something we created as a manifesto where company could really understand the values that we represent, and they could easily share it on their web pages and then social media and everywhere. So I jumped through the question I put at the beginning, why it is important to think at least in 15 years if you are a conscious business player. So as all you know, that we have many social challenges in our life, and all those organizations in the civil sector, they are mostly tiny organizations, and this is not a representative research, this is just my experience, but I feel that most of those organizations deal with fundraising 70% of their time, and 30% with doing the thing they have to do when they establish themselves to do. So this is not good this way. But if we have a conscious business community, this challenge could be easier, for example, for these people challenging the society. And of course, these are many, many factors which are a bit injustice around these socially challenging questions. And I'm always wondering why it is this way when we are patient with the companies, why we are not patient with socially challenging things. And this is just an example that everyone could realize in the past years, that investors give time, 5-10 years for companies to raise and grow and conquer the world, but we have no time for waiting for the change of the socially challenging issues. So at least we have to think in 15 years in those questions. And this is very interesting always with me, because I think all these changes start with the leader or the person. Of course, we are always talking about Q1, Q2, and everyone is talking about short-term goals. But I think those values and those value-driven leaders don't change their values in every Q1 or Q2. So I'm almost 100% sure that your values are very stable. And if the values are stable, your vision around your potential can be also very strong. So how many of you have at least 15-year strategy around your vision? No one. Okay, that's why I'm here now. And that was my wish at the beginning, that if you just will get up tomorrow or laying in your bed tonight and thinking, what can be my values which can draw or drive me and myself to a vision which can grow potential, which can grow my potential, which can build my legacy around as a leader, that would give a lot to the conversation. And just a few examples, which was 26 years, the spread of railways, at least 10 years prohibiting smoking on public spaces. So I offer you to be patient with your visions and values as a conscious business player to try to raise your potential. And of course, the not-for-profit sector has extreme challenges and a lot of lack of things. But sometimes we feel that this is a kind of sacrifice if we deal with those abstract causes around society, and we are patient, as I mentioned, with the business sector. But I think it's not really fair. And if we just realize this potential, what it means for yourself to do something good in business that could also give a chance doing good in business generally. And between the two, we believe that there is this exponential opportunity which can tell people as a conscious business player that if I play this way, then something will change in the world. I don't want to say that the world will become a better place, but something like this. And we really believe that conscious business players can create somehow the balance between the two by just building meaningful workplaces, work environment, dealing the right way with your employees, your business partners, your integrity as well, then it can make a change in the society. And I'm not a big fan of quotes, but when someone creates a good one, then I'm happy joining it. And I think this one is good because this tells a lot about the conscious business players and how they think. Every big thing in the world only comes true when somebody does more than she has to do. And I think this is the thing which differentiates conscious business players from others. Thank you.
Let me have actually just one comment that is worth an applause, that because of this conference is organized by a team of Prezi, every single entrepreneur we are working with is also on the conscious business list. So this is a conscious business conference as well. I think that's worth an applause.
The only one in the country.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah,
thank you.
Big applause.
Okay, let's jump on the questions because there are some people are super interested. How could these ethical companies be successful in industries where only the price, being able to keep costs low at all price matters?
I'm really interested which are those sectors, first of all, because what we see that almost in every sector, from agriculture to hospitality, it can really happen. And all those sectors were the ones where people always told that only price matters, the competition is very high and so on. But we already started to see examples in the system, those leaders who decided to act differently. And sometimes short term, that can hurt a lot. and they tell us that it hurts. But in long term, as you could see in employment, in income, in every layers of the financial and economic structure, tells that it's worse to act like this. And if you want to play long term and not short term, you must deal with those questions: your integrity, your employees, your business partners. And in a bit longer term, it's always much easier when you make that value set clear for your partners and for the whole environment you create and you influence. And so I cannot really say any sector from where we have no examples that it can happen the way like this.
And the next question is saying that how a mid-level manager at global companies can contribute to increase the numbers of conscious companies.
Many ways. I think if you develop yourself to become more conscious, I think mid-level managers are also leaders. So when I speak about leaders and business players, they are not just the top layer of a company, but I really believe that everyone can do smaller or bigger things in their environment. So in a mid-level as well, if you act and play with your employees, with your team, with your staff differently or more conscious, then it makes already a change in this.
Vera, we only had time for these two questions, but I would love to invite you to tell us how you see Hungary in 2035.
35.
Maybe on a blog, in a video, or just people, now we are having a break, find Vera and ask her that question, because I love that question. I'm also very interested. Vera, thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is just a little something from us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.